Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome all you weirdos, Jersey Cityites evacuated by Bruno, and everyone just trying to have breakfast at McDade's Diner when two meatheads start wailing on each other. It is time to receive your 162nd Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your mighty and also morphin host Jason, broadcasting as always from the Wrong Turn Studio, perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower. And speaking to us today is David Holler's nicest bonus personality. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you?
Good. It's another week and starting to cool down here in Seattle, which is kind of a bit of a bummer because the long, cold, dark days are quite soon. But I have a final camping trip this week. And
Nice.
At least for now, the weather looks like it's still going to be sunny.
Good luck with that. Yeah, I always do a camping trip, as you know, the weekend after Labor Day when I go up to the north of New Hampshire and have this big homebrew beer festival, camp out beer, mead, cider festival for the whole weekend. So I'm hoping the weather holds out for that. And that's usually like the big end of my summer. Although really tomorrow's kind of a big day for us because we're bringing my younger daughter up to college for the first time. So suddenly going to have a slightly more empty household. So big day in the Colby house. Anything exciting going on? Are your kids going to college yet? Are they doing their SAT prep or how's all that going on? You got to get that started early.
Yeah.
Have them bubble things in as soon as they can learn to color. It's, good stuff.
Yeah, we're much earlier. Yeah, we're much earlier in this adventure. So our older daughter's starting third grade. Our younger daughter is starting kindergarten. So the fact that they're both going to be in the same school 5 days a week is kind of exciting for us. And for me personally, I finally talked them into joining a soccer team. So I will have two soccer players that I can live vicariously
kids soccer.
through.
That's always so much fun. I think I may have mentioned before that I was on the worst youth soccer team of all time for 1 year. Our only technique was to just surround the ball and kick the other team in the shins. That's all we knew how to do. No dribbling, no shooting, no passing. That was it. We scored one goal all season, and that was only because we didn't have enough players, and one kid's older brother helped us for one game. That was our one goal all season. So, yeah, not a big soccer guy myself.
I won 2 rec league state championships in Arkansas in the
nice
early 90s.
I wasn't big in any sports that had a lot of running. I run over to the side where the ball is. They kick this ball over the other side. I got to run all the way back there. I'm a baseball guy. Give me a place to stand. I'll take care of this area right here. Okay, this is my area. I don't want to go all the way over this. But different philosophies, I guess. I think one thing we do both like, Ruben, are comic books, which is good because that's what this podcast is theoretically about. And today we're going to talk about Giant Size X-Men #2, finally finishing up that event. We're going to be talking about regular size X-Men #20 as that marches on towards the Age of Revelation. We're not going to talk about Laura Kinney #9, Magic #8. Have you kept up with those titles at all, like even casually?
No. As soon as we agreed to drop them, I decided to stop reading them.
I generally look through them. I read through them quickly. I don't do the whole deep dive thing. They don't seem very good to me. They don't appeal to me. Magic is still allegedly selling really well, like better than the flagship X-Men title. Maybe it's a covers thing. Are people collecting it? I don't quite get it. Hey, if you love it out there, good for you. Maybe let us know why, but that's all we're going to say about Laura Kinney and Magic. We also have no news this week. The only thing I read from Tom Brevoort's blog that meant anything to current events is that someone asked him, hey, I know you're not going to tell us how long Age of Revelation is. That's fine. I get it. But can you at least assure us that you know how long it's going to be, that it's not going to be an endless Clone Saga type thing? And Brevoort said, yep, I do know exactly how long it's going to be. Obviously, unless it sells really well, and then it goes on forever. So that was the news this week. The other thing I have to add, instead of any actual news, is I've created a top 9 list, Ruben. I'm not all the way up to top 10 list territory. I don't have those kind of skills. But I'm going to give you listeners the definitive top 9 cons all time. Sounds good?
Are these tricks or are these conventions?
These cons like con artist?
Yeah.
This is just it's just all cons. All cons are invited. I've carefully examined every con in the entire universe, and these are my top 9. Okay. Number 1, I think you got to go Genghis Khan. Some would say Genghis Khan. I mean, he ruled like most of the world at some point. He's apparently the ancestor to some crazy fraction of the currently living population. You gotta give him his props. Number 1, Genghis Khan. Okay, number 2, right below Genghis Khan, I'm going Madeline Kahn. You familiar with Madeline Kahn? Okay, you'll know her when you if you were to look at a picture of her. Brilliant comic actress in a lot of Mel Brooks movies. Young Frankenstein. She was in Clue. Very funny lady. Right behind Genghis Khan. Number 3, gotta go Shaka. I forgot this one originally. I posted some of this on the Slack, and Niels pointed out my oversight. I had no Shaka Khan on the list. Gotta go Shaka Khan. 70s, 80s R&B funk kind of singer. Gotta give her respect. Okay, moving down the list. Number 4, Khan Noonan Singh, the villain, some would say protagonist of the best Star Trek movie that's actually called a Star Trek movie, Wrath of Khan. Khan Noonan Singh, played by Ricardo Montalban. Moving one step down, number 5, Kublai Khan. Now, okay, he's the grandson of Genghis Khan. Not quite as famous, but he did have a really famous poem written about him by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The Stately Pleasure Dome, all that stuff. So Kublai Khan, number 5. Moving down to number 6, I'm going with Khan Supanusampon, who is the neighbor on King of the Hill, Laotian gentleman. He would have been higher, but they changed his voice actor this new season, and I don't like the new voice actor, so I had to bump him down to 6. Number 7, I'm going with Mulan's horse from the Disney movie Mulan, was named Khan. I don't know if that name goes back to the folktale of Mulan, the traditional telling, but in the movie, the horse's name is Khan, and that gets the 7th place. Number 8, this is a late entry. I originally only had 8 of these, and I added this one in to make the list all the way to 9. But number 8 is Con Air, the late 1990s Nicolas Cage movie. Not the greatest Nicolas Cage movie ever. That's probably his best movie was probably the one where he thinks he's a vampire and he recites the entire alphabet. You've seen that online. But Con Air, still a pretty good Nicolas Cage movie.
Con Air was surprisingly fun. I like that.
Like that? Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
He was.
It's like definitely over the top. It's like Hal Breen style.
Right. He hadn't gone full. I know I'm Nick Cage and I'm leaning into the Nick Caginess of it all yet.
Yeah.
Right. Not like the meta Nick Cage we get these days, but kind of like peak, not ironic Nick Cage. And finally, number 9, the 9th best Khan of all time, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. Okay. So listeners,
isn't there a Star Trek guy that yells Khan?
That was number 4, Khan Noonan Singh.
Got it. Okay.
He's on the list.
I was going to say we're not a legit show if we don't have him on there somewhere.
He was definitely there from the beginning. I gotta keep him on there, of course. I mean, don't want Stork to get all over our case. I hear he's a Star Trek geek. It's the word on the street. So, listeners, if you think my list is nonsense, if you think there's folks I forgot, if you think Kamala Khan should be higher, I question your taste, but you can make that argument. Let us know on the Slack, email, Twitter, all those ways. Okay, that was a productive use of time, Ruben, don't you think? I think of these things when I'm trying to fall asleep, and I get to share them with you. So let's move on to the ostensible, actual point of this silly show, which is, of course, initially talking about the Infinity comic. Okay, this is the Astonishing X-Men Infinity comic number 33, Change of Heart, Part 2. Written by Tim Seeley, art by Eduardo Audino, colors by KJ Diaz, Letters by Clayton Coles. So in this installment, Ruben, Tim Seeley abandons that framing story of Banshee being on the telephone with an imprisoned Black Tom. I thought that was going to be the framing story for the whole arc. Were you surprised that they dropped that?
Yeah, it just basically is like, keep on keeping on, and then they hung up. I also thought the characterization of him falling back into his old ways was inaccurate. So I was like, are we just gonna... Is it like the characters don't really know what happened?
I think so, because who was it influencing Juggernaut? He had somebody influencing him. I forget who it was.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly who it was either,
but it was not just him backsliding.
Yeah, exactly.
But Banshee might not know that. All Banshee knows is that his old buddy, who started off as a baddie and then became a goodie, is now back in prison for being a baddie. So I would think it was fine for what Banshee knows. But that phone call with Black Tom was just covering like what happened in that first chapter. He hangs up, and now we kind of see things happening live going forward. So that phone call only covered the Irish X-Men responded to Changeling breaking into Fort Knox. Then they fought Changeling there. They mostly were losing to him. And then Morph appears, and either he beats up on Changeling, or Changeling turns into Morph, or it's unclear exactly what's going on. We went over the history of Changeling and Morph last episode, so I'm going to try to not get dragged into those weeds again. We just need to remember that Changeling started out as a Magneto-style mutant supremacist villain, and that Banshee for a time was part of Changeling's crew, circa X-Men 27, 28, 29, that range of things.
Yeah, I'm very confused about what's going on here, because at some point, Havoc basically says they're the same person. And it made me wonder...
Havoc? You mean talk about Banshee?
Sorry, Banshee. Yes. Okay. Banshee, not Havoc. And it made me wonder, like, was your theory about, the story being told to Black Tom being not accurate, the real outcome here?
Yeah, I don't think...
Like, I thought it was like it sort of alluded that it might be a schizophrenia thing going on.
Yeah, we're definitely supposed to be wondering what's really happening. Banshee is... Well, so this issue is a conversation generally between Banshee and Skin. There's a little bit at the end after that, but mostly it's them talking about it. Banshee is convinced that the guy who's now on their team, who's now claims to be Morph, Banshee thinks, no, this is really Changeling. And he thinks that Changeling has, whether it's schizophrenia, I'm going to use just a very technical term and say Banshee thinks he's got a screw loose and only thinks that he's Morph. Shapeshifters are confusing, could be anything. But Morph's contention, I'm going to use the name Morph because otherwise it'll be confusing. Morph's contention is that he is really Morph, and that Morph has been superheroing around the world since he was resurrected, and he's been pursuing that evil old Changeling guy across the world since like before the fall of Krakoa. So he thinks he's got like this, his main enemy is the other shapeshifter, which is a fun idea. And we're left wondering what's really going on. Do you want to make a prediction? You want to make a guess how this is going to come out?
I think it's a mental issue. I don't think that he's like self-aware that he's both characters.
I'm going to say that the twist is going to be that there really are two shapeshifters. I guess I'm just way into shapeshifters ever since Mystique. I think it's going to be that Banshee thinks that, this is just another backsliding bad guy, but Morph is really on the up and up. That's what I'm going to say. We'll see. So at the end of the chapter, the X-Men see a news report about a series of break-ins at a British resort town. Morph, for no apparent reason or evidence, thinks, this must be the work of that bad guy Changeling. And it seems like the X-Men are going to at least play along for now and portal over there to Britain to investigate in the next chapter. So, very talky issue. I think it kind of had to be like last issue had the what the hell's going on here moment, and this issue had to be characters talking about that moment and setting up who thinks what. So, not the most exciting, no real action going on here, but I'm into the story. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. How about you, Ruben? You think it's decent so far, or do you think this whole shapeshifter thing's...
No, I think it's good.
Okay.
Shapeshifting creates like a lot of weird problems, and I enjoy somebody kind of exploring it. I've never thought of the idea of like, what would you do with a shapeshifter that is both good and bad at the same time without it being intentional? I'm going to be kind of like, I guess the cheapest way would be like, it's a fraud, right? Like he's pretending to be both. That'd be kind of dull from my perspective. Right. But if he like doesn't know that he's like the shapeshifter, then I kind of like the story.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to go forward. So once again, we think the Infinity comic is worth the price of admission, which is $0 if you're already subscribed to Marvel Unlimited anyway, like we are. Okay, moving on to the actual physical books from this week. Well, let's start with Kamala-sized Kamala Men number Kamala, a.k.a. Giant-sized X-Men number 2, main story called Transformation. It's written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. They say that this will be their final Marvel comic issue, at least for a while. I saw they have an IDW Captain Kirk Star Trek mini starting next month, which, speaking of Stork, I'm sure Stork will be all over that one. Stork, what do you think?
Ruben.
That's all he ever says. Okay. The art in this is by Adam Kubert, the colors by Laura Martin, and the letters are by Eisner Award-winning letterer, but not for this, Clayton Coles. There's also a backup. The backup is fine. The backup, I think the backup is good if you haven't read any of that number 0 issue about the Age of Revelation, right? Because I don't think it adds anything new to the story. It lets us see that Mystique and Destiny are still out there, but it's just Destiny kind of hinting at things that are going to happen in the crossover that we already kind of know about. So in the main story, Legion, or the collection of insanities that's left behind when David Holler's main personality goes off to the White Hot Room, I'm just going to call him Legion. Legion has been trying to amass enough power to force its way into the White Hot Room and reunite with David. For reasons unknown, Ms. Marvel got tangled up on these time jumps and was pulled along to a mutant greatest hits collection. And the 3 big questions, Ruben, I think we had coming into this issue were, number 1, what is causing Ms. Marvel to get pulled along to all of this? Number 2, what exactly does Legion want from David? And number 3, how is all of this timeline changing going to be undone at the end of the event? Because big things have changed, right? Krakoa jumped off the face of the planet into space and would not have been around for the whole Krakoan age. So we know we're going to undo things. And we do, in fact, get answers to all 3 of those questions. Maybe not the most satisfying answers of all time, but we do get answers. Let me just ask you, well, I'm going to go away for a second and close the windows because my neighbors are leaf blowing, but why don't you let us know what you thought in general of this wrap-up to the series?
It was kind of predictable. I wasn't that thrilled with Legion just merging with Legion in the White Hot Room and just kind of, being done. It was kind of the predictable ending, and the idea that the X-Men still remember Kamala as being part of the X-Men, but nobody's going to ever talk about it again. It's also just kind of eye-rolling. So sort of what I expected, but it's fine. I don't imagine anybody ever will reference this.
I'm kind of curious about that because I don't think we know where Kamala Khan's going to pop up next. I don't think we've seen her like in Age of Revelation. I haven't seen any previews for, here's the next big Ms. Marvel adventure. So curious to see how they go forward from here. So the first thing that happens in this issue is that Legion finishes up his trip to the House of M World by murdering a postman to death. As we mentioned last time out, when Scarlet Witch did her No More Mutants thing, and originally, or even this time too, all of that mutant energy has to go somewhere. And where it went in the original story was into an Alaskan mail carrier, mutant, didn't know he was a mutant, named Michael Pointer. In this version, Legion hoovered up all that energy. And as the issue opens, Legion turns Pointer into a handful of pink flower petals and also torches the grocery store that Michael was coming out of. I don't know why he did this. Was it just out of spite? Like, haha, I stole your power. Now I'm going to kill you and burn your grocery store too? Because was there any reason that he would have to do this?
I'm not familiar with the original story here.
Yeah,
I don't know if like
he was afraid of taking him back.
Yeah, maybe they have a vendetta. That's why they're taking him out. But it was confusing to me.
I mean, the art looked really cool here. I think that was really the main point of these pages because Adam Kubert, sometimes I'm not as into his art. Sometimes he gets really too 90s for my taste. But a lot of these pages here look really good, especially these opening ones. That
Super
buff,
Saiyan.
angry Legion on page 5 in my little digital edition here. That looks really awesome. So the rest of this issue takes place in the here and now of the 616, very much setting it in current continuity. Like we get references to things happening kind of right now. Kamala is sent right back to the Jersey City park she disappeared from at the start of the event. Bruno's still there because to him, she's been gone like 5 seconds. And Kamala sends Bruno off to, quote, hack into every emergency alarm he can find. I guess that's what Bruno's good at. He hacks things. But Ruben, this is a real emergency, and she's the famous superhero Ms. Marvel. Can't she, tell the authorities that this is a real emergency and make a real evacuation alarm?
Yeah, I don't know.
The hacking seems kind of gratuitous.
Yeah, maybe people still don't think she's legit. Which, at this point in the MCU, or not, I always say MCU, at this point in the 616,
right,
you would assume that people would just assume that she could call a national emergency. But,
or, as we'll see later, she did set up a lot of things to happen on this particular day. So she could have told one of those other people, those other superheroes we're going to see, hey, also make sure Jersey City's evacuated. Yeah. My headcanon is that she's only saying this to get Bruno out of the way and to make him feel useful. Mm-hmm. That's what I think is going on here. I think Jersey City is currently a ghost town. No one's around except for Bruno, so she makes him leave. That's what I think. Okay, so Legion himself shows up. We get fight scene part 1, a one-on-one bout between Legion and Kamala. Kamala does get to show off her combination inhuman/mutant powers. She kicks Legion with an ambiguous foot that also has that sparkly checkerboard disco ball pattern on it, which I guess is like a hard light coating on her foot that makes her kick extra kicky. Yeah. I still don't totally get this new power.
Yeah.
It's like she does the same thing, but it's sparkly and it's more effective.
Yeah.
Which would work in a video game, but in a comic book is kind of dull.
I kind of laughed because I'm like, okay, this is just sort of the MCU, like Kamala power, but we still have her just doing like embiggening stuff as well.
Right.
Which is super weird looking. But to your point, like, I don't know what making your foot glittery does beyond just having a big foot that you kick somebody with.
We like the idea of combining powers, right? That was a big thing in the Krakoan age, especially like in X-Men Red, when we had multiple mutants combine their powers in different ways, making mutant circuits. So if she's going to be combining her two kinds of power, that's a cool idea. But I'd like to see something more creative done with it. Like she makes some shields at some point, and then she makes her kicks all sparkly. I hope the next writer has a cooler idea how to combine these things. But after Kamala gets her one sparkly kick in, now we get to the most confusing bit, I think. Legion says that Kamala is, quote, the last echo of old Krakoa wearing the face of some child hero. You're a door, and you know what doors do, Kamala Khan. They open. What in the hell does that mean, Ruben? How is she particularly linked to Krakoa? Because Legion snaps his fingers, does some of his super powered up Legion mutant mojo, and Kamala stretches out into this Krakoan gate kind of thing, just made of her stretched out body. It's a cool idea. But now she's a gate linking to the white hot room. Why is Kamala Khan particularly linked to Krakoa this way?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is it's a statement about, like, if you're brought back on Krakoa, you have some sort of, like, DNA reference to Krakoa, the islands. But
so you
I don't know why that would
work
be
with any of those resurrected mutants?
Yeah, it's got it, right? I mean, they're going to always do something to say, like, Kamala's, like, extra special, but, like...
I think it's supposed to be Kamala specific.
Whatever happened to her is, like, the same thing that happened to everybody else. So, I don't get it.
So, yeah, Legion says it's in her genes, Krakoan DNA. I don't know what that means. Like, is she literally supposed to be a descendant of the island of Krakoa? I don't think so, but that seems to be what he's saying. And he says that's why she's been our little shadow. We're brilliant, us, especially when we don't know it. So this is Legion telling himself and us that he's the one who I guess has been subconsciously, or like one of his personalities, has been bringing Kamala Khan along because like part of him knew, would eventually realize that he needed her specifically to make this gate. So that is the answer to our question number 1. How did Kamala get pulled into this? One of Legion's personalities decided on purpose to bring her along. Okay, so Kamala's a gate to the White Hot Room. She uses her mutant hard light powers to seal the opening against Legion, but he's so powered up this is not going to slow him down for long. But it does delay him long enough for fight scene part 2 to kick in, which is everybody against Legion. The everybody in question being, besides Kamala herself, Rogue, Cyclops, Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, and Jean freaking Grey. So characters from most of the major books happening right now. The Phoenix herself returns to Earth for the first time since she left at the start of From the Ashes, which should be a really big deal, Ruben, shouldn't it?
Yes.
That she and Scott share page space together for the first time in months and months, over a year, I guess.
Yeah, the best part is when she just bounces again. At the very end.
They say they're going to go get. Somebody says they're going to go. It wasn't her. I think Rogue and somebody are going to go get dinner somewhere. But yeah, she doesn't stick around very long. And so how did they all know to be here? Well, Kamala told them back in the past, all those various times that she showed up in the timeline. She said, hey, such and such a date, Jersey City, Legion, we'll have a team. So I thought that was a decent enough twist. Yes, it makes Kamala Khan super important and everybody loves and does whatever she says, which is the trope I hate. But as a twist for how all these characters are going to be here, I thought it was relatively clever. Did you get any satisfaction from that, or are you totally tuned out?
Yeah, I'm pretty much tuned out at this point.
Fair enough,
story.
I get it.
My biggest issue with this was really, great, they're all here, but I'm pretty sure we've seen this combination of characters struggle in fighting with Legion in the past. But
the event's almost over, Ruben, so they've got to win now. I did like the way the reveal was done art-wise. I thought that was really neat. So Adam Kubert gives us two presumably facing pages. They're single pages here in my tablet. I presume these are facing each other, where the panels are full-height vertical strips, 5 strips per page. And on the first set of 5 strips, we see Legion being attacked by each of these newly arrived heroes. So we get like a Snikt and the claws of Wolverine poking through, a Thum and the red force beam of Cyclops, that kind of thing. And on the second set, we still don't see the new heroes fully. They're just speaking with Kamala, so you have to kind of figure out who they are by their voices. And then you turn the page and you get the splash page of all of them there in the flesh. I thought that was pretty neat. I liked the way that looked a lot. Yeah, having Kamala do the "to me, my X-Men" line, kind of cringy.
Yes.
But inevitable. I had kind of already discounted that in my head.
You're just like, when is it going to happen?
All of these things going to come. To actually have cool art leading up to it, fine. All right. It's just like the stock market when they say that loss is already priced into the price of the stock. We knew that. It's not really news if we already knew about it.
Right.
I already kind of priced in, to me, my X-Men, my expectations here. So this super group of mutants proceeds to beat the living snot out of Legion. He splits up like Multiple Man for a while so that each can beat the snot out of him in their own special way. Rogue gets the final punch in. Legion is defeated. But Ruben, Legion is also so sad, isn't he? He goes from being the evil guy to being his sympathetic, sad boy.
Yeah, he just misses David.
He misses his David. Kamala makes a speech because, of course, she's got to make the speech that saves everything. She tells Legion, hey, you can have what you want. You just need to ask nicely.
Yes.
And to admit why you want it. So Legion says, quote, very cringe, we just want to go home to the person we love. And that's the answer to question number 2. Why is Legion so desperate to get back to David? Legion loves David and misses being with him. I wonder what David thinks about not having all these crazy personalities in his head. I would think he's probably enjoying the peace and quiet. I don't know. Just maybe that's my bias as a father and as a teacher who's around lots of crazy kids sometimes.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy being away once in a while. But maybe eventually David does start to miss these personalities. Maybe, perhaps.
And they did do a very good job of explaining how these are different personalities in my mind.
We don't see
it. Just
he always
like
speaks
one
as a collective,
voice.
as a we.
Yeah.
The one hint is the idea that part of the personality was bringing Kamala Khan along because the rest eventually had to catch on that they needed her. But
I did think it was kind of a little bit cool when he is all sad sack. He definitely looks like Xavier. So I was like, oh, I see the Xavier genes.
Yeah, that's true.
Once the hair's gone,
I can see that. Yeah,
definitely looks like.
Once you shave his head, you can see the family resemblance. That's fine.
Yeah, which I appreciated that.
So Legion admits what's going on, and Kamala forms herself into a gate to the White Hot Room again. But before Legion goes through, he gives us the answer to question number 3. How is all of this going to be undone to put things the way they need to be put back? And the answer is Legion's going to do it. I guess he's still all powered up from that no more mutants power, so this is even maybe a way for him to burn out the rest of that power, to put him back to normal. He does say that he'll, quote, maybe leave a few key memories as a treat. So in theory, Kamala will remember her travels and the events of this miniseries. And I guess maybe some of the people she met on those travels will remember having met her, or maybe not remember the circumstances of how the universe changed. Which, yeah, leaves things wide open for future writers to either ignore this or reference it however they want. I'm kind of cheating, kind of hand-wavy, but you gotta make it possible for the future writers, so I was okay with it again. Let's wrap this thing up. Legion goes through the gate, and he does reunite with David. Once again, I thought the page showing this was pretty nifty. Is this a double page spread, you think, in the physical comic, like a sideways, almost like a centerfold type thing? Because on the digital, it shows a single, very narrow image. I'm guessing this was a bigger double page image in the physical one. Anyone who has the physical comic, let me know how they did this. The one where they're hugging each other, and it's neat because their heads kind of overlap. Look like their heads are merging together and just with a face coming out each side as they kind of become one again. And David says, welcome home, or maybe Legion, whoever it is, they say welcome home to each other. Kind of a neat image. Sadly, and I was kind of annoyed by this, but once again, I guess it had to be, we don't learn anything about what else has been going on in the White Hot Room. And that's because we're curious about that. It's been a busy place. It's under attack in Storm, right? In Phoenix, Jean Grey tried to get there, but then couldn't. So she should be super curious about the White Hot Room. I don't know exactly where this issue falls related to her current series, but it is right about now because like Cyclops says, oh, I couldn't get here a little late because the vehicle, that their aircraft, I forgot the name of it, the Blackbird, is out of order. Is he or maybe, I guess I'd say Blackbird. I'm thinking the Marauder because the Marauder's out of order in the current X-Men.
Yep.
Maybe they meant to say Marauder.
Yeah.
Maybe they wouldn't think that people who aren't reading. Anyway, I'm thinking this is a very, very current time frame for the X books, but I guess you could stretch that to whatever you need to be.
Yeah. I mean, we also see Rogue and Scott seemingly like being friendly to each other. So it's like, is that like, I'm going to be annoyed if like we have this sort of like, hey, we're all buddies again.
Well, that's for Kamala's. And they'd all do anything for Kamala. She's the bestest ever.
Don't fight around Kamala. Is that the
no one wants Kamala to think bad of you. You don't want to disappoint Kamala, right? Okay, so in the final couple pages, the X-Men verbally affirm Kamala's greatness a few more times, and then they leave. Kamala talks to the news media about how, some mutants are jerks, but not all of them. Okay. One mutant did almost end the world again. I think people are, kind of aware of that. On the final page, Kamala comes out to her parents as a sparkly disco ball mutant.
Yeah, I was surprised about that. I was like, okay, well, that's a big status quo thing.
Yeah,
that feels like something they will have to reference in the next.
Right. Her personal life is going to change. I can't remember if they know she's Ms. Marvel, if they know she has inhuman powers.
I think
that's
but then,
gone back and forth a couple times. It was erased when she died.
Emma did something like when she came back as a mutant.
Yeah, I don't know the current status quo of that whole thing. So it would be weird for her to tell them she's a mutant without mentioning the inhuman part. Yeah. I guess what in the art it shows her making her hands both big and sparkly. So she does show the fullness of those powers. I don't know.
Funny that, like, we don't care if you're mutant, just don't be a damn dirty inhuman.
Yeah. They don't really say inhuman too often. I think Marvel would kind of like us to forget that she's inhuman. They want her to be kind of just a mutant. Mm-hmm. They think that's where the emphasis is. So I think that's why she doesn't mention marketing. Well, so that's the end of this event. Not a great event. I wouldn't even call it a good event. But I thought this last issue was okay. Right? It did what it had to do to wrap up the loose ends created with the prior issues. I'm still not a Kamala Khan fan. Don't think I'll ever be a Kamala Khan fan. I had her at the end of my con list. That's a single issue. I thought it did what it had to do with mostly really good art. There's a couple pages where there's oversimplified, like funky Winkerbean style faces. I'm going to say this is Adam Kubert using his time as wisely as possible. He had a limited amount of time to do all these pages, so he devoted most of it to the fight scenes and kind of hurried through the standing around scenes. I would prefer all the pages look great, but economics are economics. So, yeah, I've been kind of talking my score up as we talk, but I'm not going to go crazy. We skipped over most of the dialogue. The dialogue is cringy as hell, as every issue has been. So I'm going to give this, I think I'm going to go 6.8 out of 10. Not quite a 7, 6.8. I thought just for this issue, I thought it was the best issue of the series. It's still not great. How about you, Ruben?
I'm not going to reward mediocrity, so I'm just going to give it a 6.
Just a 6. Fair enough. I understand where you're coming from.
That's me being positive. I've in my heart did not care about this issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like, I read it. Well, I should say this. I did gripe to Jim about giving me a chance to read this because I wanted to know like how this stupid thing was going to end. But
right, to get the review copy, sure.
Yes, but I was very clear in my heart, like I'm not paying for this. I know it's going to be completely unsatisfying, and it lived up to my expectations.
Yeah, I am curious to see where Kamala Khan goes next, because clearly Marvel is not done pushing her. We'll have to see. All right, moving on to, here's my sound, the regular size X-Men book of this week, which is X-Men number 20, Legacy number 320, A Civilized Discussion, ironically titled. Written by Jed MacKay, the busiest writer in comics, pencils by Netho Diaz, inks by Sean Parsons, colors by First Fuentes Suho, and letters by Clayton, I can't even say the man's name. I always go back between Cowles and Coles. I think Jim says Coles. I'm going to go with Clayton Coles. I think he's lettered everything we talked about this week. He is kind of the main X-Men letterer. Okay, enough lettering talk. Let's talk about the cover. The cover by Ryan Stegman looks great again, and it illustrates a scene that almost happens in the story, closer than usual, which is nice. We see Cyclops and Agent, I'm going to say Lundquist. I don't know if I'm supposed to pronounce the V, Lundqvist. Agent Lundquist. Both of them here are inside a single jail cell. Both of them looking fairly forlorn, beaten, bloodied. They've had a rough day. So the structure of this comic is that it cuts back and forth between an A-plot, everything that leads up to what we see on the cover, and a series of loosely related B-plots, which are interactions between the other Alaskan X-Men back at their factory headquarters. And did you happen to read Gabe's written review of this issue yet?
No. Did he dislike it? I'm going to be annoyed if
he really liked the A-plot, the Cyclops stuff. He thought that all the other plots were pointless waste of time, which I like them well enough. I think you and I are more into these characters as characters, so I think we probably appreciated their interactions more than somebody just picking up this issue. They were fine, but definitely the A-plot is the main thing in this book.
I appreciated it primarily from the perspective of like it sort of made the Hellfire Vigil mean something. Like some of the stuff from there is going to carry forward.
Indeed. So let's go through the A-plot all the way through first, and then we'll go back and talk about the little B-plot stuff. And folks, as we go through this, I want you all to imagine that I am wearing a T-shirt that says Lundquist was right, because I'm kind of on his side here. I'm on Team Lundquist. I think he makes a lot of good points. So we've seen Agent Lundquist before. He works for the ONE, the Office of National Emergency. He's basically their guy in Alaska, in charge of keeping an eye on these Alaskan X-Men. He and Cyclops have clashed before, notably in issues 3 and 10 of this volume, which were two of our favorite issues. Agent Lundquist wants to talk to Cyclops again, and so he's asked him to meet up at the local diner. This is the local Merle, Alaska diner, not the local Louisiana diner where Zebra Girl works. And Ruben, didn't I tell you last week? Cops love diners. So, of course, Lundquist wants to meet here.
Yes.
Cyclops arrives, and Lundquist greets him with a left hook right to the jaw, knocking Scott on his mutant ass. I really like the last panel on this page. Scott on the floor, Lundquist standing over him, Lundquist taking off his necktie, putting his gun down on the table next to him. It really sets the scene of what Lundquist is going to do here. Probably not how a federal agent is supposed to treat his sidearm, right? Just leaving it presumably loaded right out there in the open on a table. Does communicate Lundquist is planning on this being an extended ass-kicking session. Yeah. Diner's real busy too, right?
When I watched this, or when I saw this, I did question Lundquist's ability to actually tussle with Cyclops. Because Cyclops has been like in extreme conflict since he was like 15 or 16.
Sure.
So I'm like, Lundquist probably went to college and then eventually became a federal agent. I just don't imagine he has the same kind of experience with hand-to-hand combat that Cyclops would have.
We don't know his background.
So I can appreciate
military.
Like the sucker punch.
I'd say he's got to be military.
Yeah, I could appreciate the sucker punch getting through, but I would have assumed it would have gone a different way from that point forward.
Understandable, but I can see why Jed McKay hasn't worked like this, right? Because really what should happen here is that the two of them have a civil conversation with each other. But that'd be boring. This is an X-Men comic. Yeah. So you got to have them, fist talking, punching each other, kneeing each other in the chest. So I think I understand the purpose of having it go back and forth, just like an argument or debate would go back and forth, because that's really what's being illustrated here. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with Lundquist. He's clearly a really big dude. We don't know his background. Neither of them are using their ranged weapons, right? Scott's not going to use a blast here. Lundquist not going to use a firearm. So they're just punching each other in the face to get their emotions out. I was fine. I understand your point, but it didn't bother. So Lundquist is mad at Cyclops because he's just found out and figured out that Scott has been withholding important information from him. Two things, really. Number one, that 3K had been turning ordinary baseline humans into mutants. And number two, that Ben Liu guy, who's publicly understood to have died in San Francisco in that incident in issue number 2, now Ben's alive and well, and a member of Scott's own X-Men team right under Lundquist's own nose. So, 3K. Lundquist does confirm that when 3K announced themselves at the end of the Hellfire Vigil, that announcement went out to the whole world, not just to mutants, which we had wondered about. He says they even put their manifesto out as a press release, so they're not trying to be secret at all. Lundquist put some bits of the manifesto together and looked at some events and figured out, 3K is making new mutants. Lundquist sees protecting humans from mutant threats as his entire job, so Scott having withheld that information, kind of a big frickin' deal. Scott's side of the argument is, hey, that was just mutant business, X-Men business, none of your business. Which, Scott, I like you and all, I understand your position, but that's untenable, right? Especially in a town like Merle that was nearly wiped out by a Sentinel. Lundquist should know what kind of threat he's facing. What do you think? Am I being overly critical of Scott? Are you on Team Scott and I'm Team Lundquist?
I'm 100% on Team Scott, given how little people have, how much betrayal has happened to the X-Men, including the fact that the government seemed to sort of tacitly tolerate Orcus as they wiped out the X-Men and had the big Sentinel showdown on Earth.
Yeah, I think betrayal goes both ways. I think the humans have, as a point I've made too many times now, but the humans have pretty good reason to be suspicious of mutants, and this is just going to make them more suspicious, right? This is not going to heal the hate and fear gap. This is going to widen it.
Yeah. No, I 100% follow that perspective, but I do not. I mean, I'm always Team Scott, so what are you going to do?
But yeah, I like the way that it's presented where you can definitely take either side.
Yeah, I appreciate...
Both men have good points.
Exactly. I do like it from that perspective. I think Lundquist is an interesting character, and it makes O&E more interesting. But then I also thought about, was it Zero? The Zero team, or whatever the hell they are, that went after Revelation? Yeah,
they're like the hardcore secret group within ONE.
Yeah.
Who were created for that issue. Who knows if they'll ever be seen again. Yeah. They needed to have some government stormtrooper types for that.
And I'm aware that Scott doesn't know about them, but to the point of not trusting one, it's sort of already panned out that there's no reason that he should.
Well, Lundquist probably doesn't know about them either, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's public. I don't think he's part of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the second thing that Lundquist is mad about, Ben Liu. Ben's emergence as a mutant, just nearly destroyed big section of San Francisco. Cyclops, I guess, told Lundquist that Ben Liu was dead. I don't remember that being specifically communicated.
Yeah. I think it came out publicly that they were dead, and he just didn't correct.
Okay.
He didn't send him a memo to say, Ben Liu's dead.
Don't tell nobody, but just so you know, he's alive.
Yeah.
So, and the details aren't totally clear how Lundquist figures this out. I guess Ben, during the whole Twinsy and Piper Cobb situation, he went and talked to Piper's mom, right? It wasn't like Ben Liu went out in public and was seen doing saving the day in public. But we know the mom said somehow news must have gotten out. They don't really talk about the details here. But anyway, Lundquist knows he's around. And to Lundquist, reasonably enough, this guy's a ticking time bomb right in his own jurisdiction. He's mad to not know about it. And I guess he knew that he and Scott were never going to be super buddies, but he thought they had some kind of a understanding between each other. And now he feels like a chump. Nobody likes to feel like a chump. So at this point, the fight gets interrupted by Police Chief Paula Robbins, who shoots taser darts into both combatants and has them dragged off to the jail cells like we saw on the cover. Now, in the real world, I'd say that Chief Robbins should have given the two men a chance to be taken into custody peacefully, right? She kind of shoots even when she doesn't need to. But yeah, comic book world, she's got to do that. I did think it was funny that Robbins tases Lundquist first, and Scott thinks, oh, thanks for helping me out. Thanks for saving me from that guy. And then she just tases him too. That was fun. So now we cut to that jail cell. Well, in the body of the comic, as opposed to the cover, they're in two separate adjacent jail cells. Smart thing to do. These guys are trying to kick each other's ass. You're not going to put them in the same cell.
Yeah.
It's exactly. Fine for the cover. I get cover. It looks really great on the cover. It's closer than most covers are to reality. Mm-hmm. Perfectly okay. Conversation here gets a little bit deeper than the one they had while they were punching each other. Cyclops asked Lundquist, hey, why do you hate mutants? Like, is it personal? Did your family get hurt by a mutant, or is it just like an abstract? And Lundquist says back, basically, hey, screw you. I don't hate mutants. He draws an extended metaphor based on the movie Battle Royale. He says that while all mutants are born with a weapon, some of these weapons are like the equivalent of a fork or a pot lid, but some of them are born with the equivalent of a shotgun or an Uzi, and that's why this office, the ONE, has to keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
He doesn't mention it, Ruben, but some mutants are born with the equivalent of a whole lot more than a shotgun.
Yeah.
Right? Your Omegas, your Storms, your Legions, they can destroy the world.
Yes.
And there's some decent back and forth about how while Lundquist's theory of the world is, based on this story, Cyclops' own theory of the world is based on stories drilled into him by Charles Xavier, who, remember, is basically the most wanted man on Earth, except that he's not actually on Earth anymore. But he would be if he was on Earth. And then Lundquist drops the final tidbit of information. Once the news about 3K and Ben, etc. becomes public, the Office of National Emergency, they have themselves a bit of a reorg. And so Lundquist has a new boss, presumably the boss of the whole office. And Lundquist says that this new boss, 1, has a very particular interest in the X-Men. Number 2 is a real hard-ass, a nightmare even. And also, this new boss, Ruben, is himself a mutant. Okay, so who do you think is the new head of the ONE?
Is there somebody from 3K that's not publicly known? I mean, it's only been Cassandra Nova,
yes,
right?
There is. The chairman is not yet known. We know Cassandra Nova. We know that, I forget what her name is, who's there with the Magneto clone, Joseph. Mm-hmm. And we know that Wire is kind of their hitman type. But we don't know who the chairman is.
Yeah. I'm going to guess it's that Magneto clone woman, that she's somehow involved. Now, who do I want it to be? I want it to be Abigail Brandt.
They specifically say he. I went and checked.
Okay, did they? Darn it. Okay.
Yeah, I looked at the panels very closely.
Okay. So maybe it's Joseph then. That would probably be a thing.
Could be, or it could be whoever this chairman is, right? We have two shadowy figures. We don't know who they are. Maybe they're one of the same.
The other question I had is, we thought they were aliens, those people in Storm that were like interpreting her.
Right. On that weird FBI team.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe that guy is going to be in charge now. Maybe he was a mutant, not an alien.
One of them said that he was an alien because he said he was from a planet with more nitrogen in the atmosphere.
Okay.
So we had both.
So it couldn't be him.
Yeah. Guesses I've seen online. Tell me if you like any of these.
Okay.
Forge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
he's
fine. He's been
free,
in the military
right?
before, and he's not
in
his
any current
book
books
anymore.
Havoc. That'll be fun. Brother issues are always good in X-Men comics.
Yeah. And he was part of X Factor,
right?
Which didn't disband, right? It was still, I could see that.
He was working with the government. He would transfer offices.
Mm-hmm.
Sunspot, who's been kind of hinted at in Uncanny, being the cousin of Ransom. But he's done government-y type stuff before. Could see that maybe. Now they start to get a little weirder. I've seen Dark Beast.
Oh, God.
Last we saw Dark Beast, he was a head in a jar.
Yeah, I'm sick of Dark Beast. I don't want that to be it.
We're going to talk about Beast going forward. And I don't think we need the actual Dark Beast around. I think Beast figuring out his place in this world is more interesting if we don't bring Dark Beast into it. I've seen Mystique mentioned. They did say he, but Mystique can be anybody.
Yeah,
so
I don't possible. Think it's Mystique.
Probably not, because we know Mystique is still, in rough shape, but I've seen that mentioned. I've seen Larry Trask mentioned, which, as far as we know, he's still a gibbering idiot, having gone crazy from the end of Sentinels. So I don't think that's a good idea. And one guess that is probably a joke, but I thought was a pretty good one, McCloud, also from X Factor.
No way.
It's not true,
That would be
but
the
it
worst.
made me smile. I thought that was funny. And I don't think we're going to find out. Maybe that'll be the final reveal as we go into Age of Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I think when Age of Apocalypse happened, the mandate was all the books should have a giant cliffhanger right before the universe changes.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're doing something like that, maybe that'll be the big cliffhanger reveal at the end of issue 22 or whatever. There is, with the promos do say there's a giant reveal in the issue number 22 of X-Men, which I presume was going to be about Revelation, the Age of Revelation, but maybe it's about something that they're going to come back to after that.
Somebody's on here. Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, honestly, maybe it's just regular Beast. I don't know how he would have time to get another job, but never know.
You mean regular Beast who's with the X-Men, or do you think like
Merrill?
Okay. Because we still don't know if the Krakoan era Beast might still be out there.
Oh, man.
Remember,
okay, that would be messed up, though. I don't think I need like 3 Beasts. There's Dark Beast in a head. There's regular Beast, who became sort of Dark Beast. And then
there's Naive, recently booted back up from the 80s Beast.
Yeah.
Lots of fun possibilities.
A little too much.
Yeah, I do like that we're getting this opportunity to speculate. It's one of my favorite things about comics. But it is a little bit samey with how 3K is still being teased, right? If they don't turn out to be connected, it's going to feel like McKay just playing the same trick twice.
Yeah.
But wait and see. That is the A plot of this issue. So now we're going to go back and talk about the other interspersed scenes that are not nearly as momentous, but I thought were still kind of fun. So the first one is we see that Magic and Juggernaut have been collecting the various bits of wreckage of the Marauder. Now, folks might remember that Quentin was flying the Marauder looking for Piper and that whole Piper versus Twinsy thing until Wire shot him out of the sky, and we spent several issues wondering if he was alive or dead. Quentin reminds us of something I had forgotten, Ruben. This Marauder is the same biomechanical shape-shifting vessel that was originally called the Mercury, that Emma Frost stole from an alien dude during Krakoa, served as one of the Hellfire Trading Company's sailing vessels for a while, so it can form its shape into anything it needs to be. Quentin finds the ship's, quote, living memory core in the wreckage. He telepathically wakes it up, gives it a pile of twisted metal as raw material, and instructs it to put itself back together. Again, it's not actually that different from Twinsy. Like, Twinsy uses organic flesh. It's kind of similar to the Sentinels in that Sentinel book where you just give them raw materials, they rebuild themselves, but kind of cool. I'm curious if the Marauder will look significantly different when we see it rebuilt.
Yeah. And even in X Factor, didn't Forge create the version of the Blackbird that could rebuild itself?
X-Force.
Or X-Force, yeah.
There was something about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I remember that happening. It was repairing itself at one point. He was waiting for it to repair itself.
Yeah.
So I guess that's common technology here in this world.
Which would be good because they get shot out of the sky like every third issue.
It would be handy, yeah. Don't have to take it down to the shop. Just give it some scrap metal and it fixes itself. Next interlude is several pages of relationship talk. We have Psylocke and Temper kind of gossiping about the respective love interests, Greycrow and Ransom, and whether Cyclops would or does disapprove of either of them. It was fine here, nothing really moving forward, just kind of some light chit-chat. And then we cut to Hank and Jen Starkey. Jen Starkey's the winged, newly transformed to a mutant person. Seems the two of them have been spending a lot of time together, especially since the Hellfire Vigil. Jen clearly wants a more-than-friends relationship with Hank, but Hank is all twisted up emotionally caused that whole invitation he got from Wire to join 3K. He's oblivious. He's not picking up what Jen's laying down. Hank says he should be alone, quote, so as not to upset anyone else. And, of course, Jen finds that pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
Great work, Hank. Yeah. He's in a bad shape. He's really, you hear people say, oh, I'm really not in a good place for a relationship right now.
Yeah.
That's really where Hank is. So
yes.
He's not being very emotionally intelligent here, but he's got an excuse. Next, the penultimate factory interlude is a game of horse being played on a factory rooftop basketball court between Glob Herman and Ben Liu. Glob is winning, which is fun. He says that his sticky, grippy hands are an advantage. Kind of gross, Glob.
Yeah.
Ben wants to know how Glob, who has been dealt a pretty rough hand mutation-wise, how he manages to always be so upbeat. Glob says he wasn't exactly a looker even before his X gene made him all globby. Ruben, do we have any idea what Glob looked like before he was Glob?
I don't think so. I don't think we've ever seen that. But
I've looked around. I haven't found anything. He's not a svelte gentleman, even in his current one. I wonder if that was his body shape before he was transparent.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember, if they showed it, it would have been after the Morrison run, because he just kind of showed up in that as this.
Mm-hmm. I found one issue where he talks about his origin, but it's only done in dialogue with no like flashback or anything. So Glob tells Ben something that Taskmaster once told him back when Glob was on the evil side of the street attending Hellfire Academy. Taskmaster tells Glob that, the good girls are not going to fall for you, but the bad girls kind of dig this skull look they both got going on. So I guess Glob is into the bad girls, or at least open to the possibility of the bad girls, so he keeps hope alive.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. Real purpose of the scene is just to tell us that Ben kind of suspects that Lundquist knows he exists.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, is very true.
Yeah, I enjoyed this little basketball interlude, in part because this was like a major thing in classic X-Men, 90s X-Men comics.
Right.
And I'm calling that classic. But in any event, in the 90s, they were like constantly playing sports as X-Men, and that was kind of a fun little thing to see how they're cheating with their mutant powers.
I do think there was a missed opportunity to have them play something other than horse. Like, what mutant word would be the equivalent of horse? I think they should have made that. There's a place there you could have put in a joke, and I think it could have been funnier. Yeah. So, listeners, if you have an idea what game mutants would play, what word they'd spell out other than horse, let us know. Okay, final factory scene. It's dinner time. The X-Men are slightly concerned that Scott hasn't returned. I'm sure he wanders around all the time. I don't think they know, Ruben, that Scott was specifically heading out to meet Agent Lundquist. They might have checked up on him earlier.
Yeah.
I get the idea Scott doesn't always share what he's going to be doing for the day. Seems kind of plays things close to the vest. So they have Quentin do his psychic LoJack thing, and Quentin finds that Scott is in jail. Not just visiting, in jail.
Yeah.
Quentin refuses on principle to psychically contact Chief Robbins to ask, hey, WTF, because Quentin, quote, doesn't talk to cops. Dumb, but dumb in character.
Yes.
Quentin's kind of dumb.
Yes.
He's brilliant, but he's also dumb.
Yes, he's always been the rebel guy. I could see him say that.
He's playing the punk, right? Oh, I don't trust cops.
I mean, I also laughed about this as just how many times is Cyclops going to be in jail? Like, at this point, it's like old hat for him.
And like, it's kind of not his fault this time. He didn't start the fight.
Yeah. I mean, he was captured by Orcus recently, and then there was there was after the Phoenix 5 period where he was like in jail.
I forgot him being tortured by Orcus. That was that was Jerry Duggan stuff they probably don't want to talk about too much.
Yeah. So there's it's like, I guess by jail cells, this is probably a decent one. But
he has a blog where he rates them all.
Yeah.
I do wonder in this dinner scene why Quentin doesn't just psychically contact Scott himself.
Yeah, and just
like,
say,
hey, Scott, what's up here? Why do you have to go through Chief Robbins? That's fine, though. As the scene closes, Psylocke walks away from the table to find a telephone. I guess they only have a landline, no cell phones here. And then the book ends with the jailhouse scene that we've already discussed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought this was a really good issue.
Yeah, this was a fun issue. The dialogue was good, and as much as I said I was Team Scott, I did think the fight with Lundquist was fun. And the reveal that Scott is not really, I guess, in the good graces of the chief, or at least to the point where she would let him walk out after participating in a diner fight.
Again, you can see it from her perspective. She was probably called by somebody in the diner, maybe the diner owner. These two goons are just trashing the place. She's fed up with both of them. It will be kind of interesting to see her talk to Scott at some point later and, see how sheepish he is about being part of it, or if he says, oh, I didn't start it, what'd you do to me? Maybe we'll get to revisit their relationship a little bit. That could be fun.
Yeah, and I kind of like the Temper Ransom relationship, given, some of the stuff she's had in the past, and we'll have some fun moments where Kid Omega is like jealous of Ransom, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and it was done on like one page. I don't need a whole big thing about the relationship, but have us know that it's still kind of going on, still bubbling away.
Yep.
Makes it feel more textured, more like real life. Again, it's not real life, but it feels more than just people punching each other.
My favorite sort of nothing line that just really made me chuckle was when Temper's talking to Psylocke, and she talks about whether Cyclops would approve of her bank robber boyfriend, and then Psylocke
because
says,
we've talked about
John
that.
Greycoat pursues non-traditional revenue streams. I'm like, oh my god, like it's a hilarious way to like whitewash your bank robbing.
Yeah, and she says, and to my point, he's nice to me.
Yeah,
which very shallow, canon Psylocke, but I guess that's her characterization now. She's kind of shallow.
She's a freaking assassin. I'm fine with her not being the most up and up person.
Yeah. Again, when we've seen Grey Crow, he's actually been shooting back at bank guards, so that's a bit far. But this is Jed MacKay kind of lampshading that distant thing going on and saying, I know it's ridiculous, and I'm just going to say that Psylocke is just kind of shallow about it. Yeah. That's fine. Art, top notch. I know Ryan Stegman's by far the better known artist, but I'm never disappointed when Netho Diaz takes over for an issue or two. Yeah, similar style, executed really well. That simple fist fight between these two guys feels as brutal and violent as any high-powered mutant battle. Just the angles and the poses and the pissed-off facial expressions. It feels really solid.
Yeah.
And then contrasting these calm, mundane activities back at the factory, I think that was also a nice use of the back-and-forth structure is just, everybody hanging around, playing basketball and gossiping versus Scott getting his ass kicked. And kicking ass, too. So, good stuff. In some ways, this was a filler issue, and I've not been so happy with the filler issues we've got in other titles, but I'd say this is a filler issue done right. We don't get huge plot movement, but it advances all the character relationships in an organic way. It reveals some kind of cool new information, right? The thing about the ONE is new. And it doesn't feel to me like anything is being done or said just for cheap, hot internet clicks. So I'm going to give this issue 8.3 out of 10. How about you, Ruben?
I'm just going to give it a straight 8.5. I loved it. I thought it was fun. And the art was very solid as well. And it doesn't move the ball like significantly forward, but it does move it forward in a lot of ways. So we have like a new status for ONE, right? And they become
or the hint of one at least.
Yeah. They seem like a bigger problem, right? Like something that the X-Men are going to have to deal with going forward versus just kind of it being there and an annoyance.
And the idea of a government agency run by a mutant not so friendly to mutants, that's not brand new, but it makes us wonder what's going on. And that makes ONE a little more interesting.
Yeah. So, that was good. And then just the kind of ongoing relationship, reminders / we did get a little bit of drama with Jen Starkey and Beast relationship being a little more fraught than maybe it appeared in the visual issue.
We don't see Magneto here, even at the dinner scene where everybody else is together. Yeah. I wonder what's going on there. Do we know he's off somewhere else? I can't think of any reason he wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I haven't seen him. I also want to see the reconstructed Marauder. I'm hoping it comes back looking a lot cooler than a steel coffin. Like this would be an opportunity for them to draw like a much cooler looking spaceship.
Indeed. Yep. So there are 2 more issues of X-Men coming up before the big change. Next issue, it says that while Cyclops is going to spend the night in jail, we get to see the other X-Men, the younger ones, heading out on the town. And, I guess they're going against the Upstarts, who the Upstarts we haven't seen. They were the ones that Jen Starkey was being chased by, right?
Yep.
So we're revisiting the Upstarts, one which, again, definitely feels kind of like filler, like they can't do too much before Revelation. But if it's as good a filler issue as this one, I'd be okay with it. Open to the idea.
Yeah. Even though the Upstarts have not been portrayed necessarily as a threat to this team, they're a real problem, right? Like they're going out and trying to murder random mutants. You would think that you would try to take them off the board as soon as you could reasonably look for them.
And seeing how this team works without Scott to tell them what to do could also be fun. Okay, that was the final book we wanted to talk about this week. Looking forward, next week we have Exceptional X-Men number 12. And that's all right. Kitty fell into that portal that Ironheart left unguarded in the park, and now her students are going to have to try to figure out how to get her back. I think that's what Exceptional is going to be doing until Age of Revelation. We get Wolverine number 12 next week, which I think finishes up the arc that we've been reading. The solicit says that Wolverine and his mother are on the run, which maybe they just didn't want to give stuff away, but I thought we had determined that this was not really his mother, just like it wasn't really Sabretooth. It's hallucinations caused by Mastermind. We'll find out in a few days. There's also, Ruben, 2 non-X books coming out next week that we might talk about. Hey, maybe. But what is Jim going to do? Stop us? He's not our boss. He kind of is, but not really. And those books are Imperial number 3, the next one in the main line of that story we've been enjoying, and Imperial War Black Panther number 1, the first of the one-shot Hickman co-written tie-ins. So
yes,
maybe
I've successfully read the entirety of the intergalactic Wakandan storyline that Takeshi Nate notes or whatever.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
There we go. We go. That story. So I now understand what was happening, and I overly complicated it on our last call, so I will clarify.
Great, because maybe when I read it or when you explain it to me, I'll finally get it through my thick head who these multiple T'Challas are. If there's one T'Challa, lots of T'Challas.
There's only one T'Challa.
Only one T'Challa.
Short. Yeah. There's only one Shuri, so those characters are like the ones that you know.
They just commute back and forth from Wakanda to space.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, I will keep that in mind when I read those new books. That all happens next week. And until those books come out, Ruben, what should our lovely listeners do with their valuable time?
Read more X-Men comics. My next thing to catch up on is I'm finally going to read Age of Apocalypse, because the summer, I guess the fall of too many Age of Apocalypse sequels fast upon us, and I feel like I need to actually know what the hell happened in that story.
I read the first month's worth of issues. I tried to read them all chronologically, and for whatever reason I got distracted and never got back to it. So I have a feel for what was going on, but I can't claim to have read the whole thing.
Yeah,
so
that's about where I left off. Yeah, that's about where I left off, and I'm gonna pick it back up.
Very good. Bye, everybody.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
The X-Books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Save that for the X-Men podcast.